state of Virginia against the Atlantic Coast frac pipeline that's being proposed by Dominion Power. Yeah. I'm working with a really awesome coalition of folks, and we're just part of a growing resistance in the state of Virginia. However, I primarily work with a group called Collective X in Richmond, Virginia. We've been in existence for a few years now, and we plan direct action and plan protests around a multitude of issues. And we also have started teaching direct action training, which has been a really awesome experience for us. So I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to be your moderator today, and then I'm just going to introduce our panelists, and then I'll say a few more things, and then we're going to pass it over to them. Okay? This is Charlie Spatz from CCAN. You're a Richmond Virginia. Okay. And then this is Erica Gray from Sierra Club, and you're the nuclear chair at the Sierra Club. Richmond Sierra Club, Virginia. And this is Rita Catherine out of Roanoke, and you're she's with Mothers Against Pipelines today. And then you're Kendall Crawford. Kendall Crawford with Richmond Sierra Club. Virginia. I'm the Richmond organizer. Richmond organizer for Virginia Sierra Club. And you're going to be here. Okay. Well, I'm going to say just a few more things. But, so just to remind everybody about what my job today as a moderator is, it's just to make things run a little bit smoothly. I want to remind participants to please participate, but not to take up. Can everyone hear me without this?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. But please do not take up too much space. Just remember to keep questions and answers to an appropriate time, and always be aware of your privilege. Just make sure that people that are traditionally more repressed in society get to speak before you. Please keep Q&A time to questions for panelists on the topics that they're here to discuss. Commentary is really important, but let's try to keep that within our communities outside of these spaces so that we can respect our panelists and why they're here. I want to start with a little celebration today. There is an environmentalist named Eric McDavid who has been in prison for 8 years, and he was released this week. Awesome panels happening at once to sort of try to tie those together. There's prison happening down there, and then there's environmental happening up here, but we can make those connections, right? So Eric McDavid's case was actually overturned. He didn't just get released; he was overturned because they found it true that he was entrapped by the FBI. These are common tactics used against environmentalists and activists in general, and people in general. So it's a really great thing because it set precedent, and we're just really happy because he had, and all of his supporters are really happy. However, the environmental movement has been wrought with violence globally at the hands of the state since its inception, and it's getting more repressive with each year. The state will do what it can to protect the most concentrated wealth amassed outside of slavery, which is its energy resources. This repression includes mass imprisonment, demonization of environmentalists, calling them terrorists, and so on and so forth, and murder. Environmentalists are actually being killed and imprisoned by the state in record high numbers around the world. A huge number of them are indigenous, insurrectionary environmentalists in Latin America. As the destruction of our Earth becomes more clear and the fight becomes more organized, so will the backlash against the people trying to save it. Nonetheless, it will be done for our future generations, and we must be unified, organized, and relentless in order to fight back. A couple of examples of some serious cases of state repression that are happening currently is Marius Mason is serving 22 years, and forgive me right now, but it's a Midwestern state. I just forgot to write it down. And then, which is a rather extreme sentence. And then another really good example of state repression is the Temuco 12 case in Chile. These are our political prisoners. These are our global political prisoners, and we must support them. So I just want to take like 10 seconds of a breath and just to think about these people, and then we can pass it on. Okay? Okay, thanks. Are we going in order? It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys can do.
use the microphone because my husband has trouble with his hearing and he never admits that he can't hear. So, do you mind passing out the thing? I had a commentary that was published in the Roanoke Times on Christmas Eve. It was a commentary about how we're going to use economics, why it's not economically viable to have the pipelines. If you already read that, please don't take one of them because I had printing challenges where I only have so many of them. At the other side of it, though, there is a resolution I'm hoping that the People's Assembly will pass. The resolution is very simple. It's whereas fossil fuels create extreme weather through climate change that threatens people's lives and livelihoods, whereas energy efficiency and renewable energy sources will provide a robust economy while protecting our environment, we resolve to oppose the building of massive pipelines to transport fossil fuels in Virginia and our nation. That's what I'm proposing as a resolution. I'm on a mission to convince environmentalists to learn about economics because a lot of the fight that we need to do to be successful in protecting our environment is a fight of economics. And we have the truth on our side to win this battle and win the fight. That will not only be good for our environment, but it will also be good for our economy and for our communities. So I care about the environment very much. I also care about people's health. But I'm going to address things right now that have to do with money and the economy, and some talking points that you can have when you're talking to your elected representative, whether it's on the state level or on the national level, that I hope will come in handy. One is the emerging evidence that methane emissions are more potent greenhouse gas than carbon is. That is very important because right now the EPA has given instructions to the states that they can get credit for their clean energy plans by using natural gas. So we need to change that. We need to make sure that the methane emissions from natural gas are treated worse, so we don't get bonus points for using natural gas. We're going to have questions later, if you don't mind. So that's really important. We have a large industry that will soon be championing the issues we care about, and that's the insurance industry. In the handout that we have, there's on the other side is the sources that I used for that commentary, and one of them is the source called CERES. It's spelled C-E-R-E-S, and that is an independent, nonprofit conglomeration that's been created to help economies be sustainable. And they published a report in 2012 on extreme weather and the property and casualty insurance companies. And in that report, it shows that we are acting negligently. And this isn't just like, well, with climate change, the shore is going to rise and we're going to lose a little bit of shoreline. They talk about extreme weather when it comes to drought and floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and derechos. And it's put pressure on the insurance industry to raise the rates. Most people are worried about, with reducing coal and the energy plants, that our utility rates are going up, and nobody's been paying attention to their property insurance that have already gone up in most places 5 to 12%. So we're getting hit with that. And that's the insurance industry making a correction there, saying if you guys keep behaving negligently, it's going to cost you. We're going to have to charge more to do that. So these are things that we can use when we're talking to the legislators about, and FERC. Do you guys all know what FERC is? The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission? Right. Okay, that's who we need to deny the pipelines. So use these talking points to do that. Is my time up? 30 seconds? Work really hard to ban fracking. That's going to drive the price of gas up. So we need to do things like that. be aware that the Pope's about to do something that's fancy that he hardly ever does about climate action. So start looking at these points of establishment with the economy and using those as talking points when you're writing to FER or the governor or whoever you're writing to. So my time is up. Okay. Right.
We're going to do it at the end, and then we're just going to get you all in here.
I just want to know what percentage of natural gas is in there.
It's more at the front end of the drilling with the fracking that's releasing all the methane emissions. So it's, I don't know. Right.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendall. I'm the Richmond organizer for the Sierra Club, as we said earlier. Statewide, Sierra Club works on lots of different issues, but right now I'm here to talk to you guys about climate change and heat, more specifically urban heat islands. So we know that climate change is raising temperatures. As a matter of fact, globally, 2014 was the hottest year on record. So that's, of course, raising ocean temperatures, increasing the severity and frequency of heat waves. And we also know that heat is one of the leading weather-related killers. If you think back to 2003, in Europe there was a heat wave that killed around 50,000 people. So kind of bring that a little bit closer to home. There recently was a great book released called Virginia Climate Fever. And so looking at the data it had for Richmond, right now we experience around 40 days a year above 90 degrees. But if we are unable to mitigate or lower our carbon pollution that's going into the atmosphere, fueling climate change, global warming, by the mid-2050s, we'll be experiencing around 81 to 85 days, or almost 12 weeks a year, above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not, oh gosh. Okay. Since the 2050s. So recently, the Urban Climate Lab at the Georgia Institute of Technology has identified Richmond as being in the top 20 most rapidly growing urban heat islands in the United States. So what the heck is an urban heat island? What's the urban heat island effect? So number one, they occur in urban built-up areas. So, if you imagine yourself standing on the pavement during the summer, now imagine yourself walking to a forest. You feel how much cooler the forest is, or even just imagine yourself standing on grass versus standing on pavement. So basically, what causes these heat islands to form? Basically, when we replace natural vegetation with buildings, not just buildings, but also parking lots, roads, pavement. So all of the buildings and the pavement, they absorb that solar radiation and they hold it in, and then of course they warm up the air temperature. So cities that have been paved over do not have the natural cooling effects that more vegetated, more rural areas have. But the urban heat island effect isn't just from the storing of heat, it's also from waste heat. So from things like air conditioning units, industry, automobiles, different buildings. So those two combined create the urban heat island effect. And so this, of course, has lots of different impacts from social, health, economic, environmental. So basically what you have is the higher temperatures. And then, of course, with climate change, there are going to be more frequent and severe heat waves. So, of course, the urban heat island effect makes all of this worse. So when you have those heat waves, you have more folks using air conditioning, so that relates, that results in a higher electricity demand. So more people pumping on their AC units. This obviously stresses our energy system, and it can increase chances of brownouts. And then, of course, for effects, you have lack of adequate cooling, especially for at-risk populations, elderly, and then you also have increased chances of illness and death. So when you look at some of the pollution effects from this urban heat island effect, the more carbon pollution, you get you get more carbon pollution, also more air pollution from this greater use of our electricity production. So you take one pollutant, like smog. So this increase in temperatures is also